Nisha.
Hi, can we hear?
Yes.
But only each other, not what's going on in the sanctuary.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They probably don't have their mic on.
Well, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, can we hear? L'chuneranena l'Adonai Nariya litzor yishenu Nikadma fana betohoda Bizmirot narihalo. Continue down Psalm 95 on page 15 silently. We are the flock, let us let God be the shepherd. Don't harden our hearts. Many have not reached the land of Menucha, the Holy Land, because of chasing away the Spirit of God. Let us not be like them. Let us be those who welcome Shabbat and greet Shabbat with acceptance and preserve the Spirit in gratitude. Arba'im shana akut bedor Va'omar amto elevavim Behem lo yadu derachai Asher nishpati v'apihi im yavon el menuchati. Page 16. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz Shiru l'Adonai baruch shemo Basru miyom liyom Yeshuato Sapru v'goyim kevodo b'chol ha'amim niflotav Ki gadol Adonai holal me'od norahu al kol Elohim kol Elohim halilim Adonai shamayim asah. Yismechu hashamayim hashamayim Yismechu hashamayim hashamayim Yismechu hashamayim v'tahagel haaretz Yiram hayam Yiram hayam Yiram hayam umelo Yiram hayam Yiram hayam Yiram hayam umelo Yahusharai v'kol shabo az yiranenu kolatzei ya'ahar Hey Adonai kiva lishpot ha'aretz Yishpot hevel b'tzedek v'amim be'emunato. The psalm calls us to hear, and the Kabbalists who put this in the service, that there's a new song. Being in the present moment means listening to the new song that's playing all around us. I would include tonight in the new song. I can see people walking along the streets. It's warmer tonight. People are out in droves walking. I see dogs and my cat much happier than usual, my outdoor cat, because he gets freezing in the cold. He's outside enjoying, and there's just so many more people outside. I've seen people in the street all day, just stopping and talking to each other in the middle of the road where I have to drive around them. And there's really a new spirit in the air. When I was just coming back from my short visit home, that piece of toast, the air smelled different. It smells like it's going to rain. So I just want us to open up to the ways in which things are changing all around us, a little bit of spring or whatever, maybe we shouldn't name it, but there's a new song. There's a new song, a new feeling, all of creation behaving a little differently. There's a new vibration in the air. Let us attune ourselves to it. Let us not be stuck in the past. Let's not be too concerned about the future, but live within the song and let our hearts just drift into it in peace. Orzaru ala tzadik, uyishrei lev simcha, simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'odu lezecher kodsho. And we turn to page 18, Psalm reminding us to find a way to join in to make music. God is working wonders around us, to experience the world on the level of awe and of wonder. As the sea and all of God's creatures, everything in the rivers, they're part of the wonder. They are sensing it immediately. Let us remind ourselves, we too are creations of the earth. We too are living beings. We are briot, and we have the same capacity to directly connect to God. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot beitev b'tzedek, amim b'meisharim. Psalm 99, page 19. Adonai malach yirgezu amim, yoshev keruvim tamut haaretz. Psalm reminds us that the beauty and presence of God is often hidden from view by cloud. It's like we can't see it, we can't hear it, we can't feel it. There's the cloud of chaos and injustice intervening, or the noise of our lives. And the psalmist reminds us that we have to remember that God's voice came from a cloud all through the travels in the wilderness. And so rather than seeing the confusions, the chaos, the injustice as blockages, rather let us be like God's chosen ones, our ancestors, and hear this voice of God coming through the cloud. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ishtachavu lehar kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. For Psalm 29, it brings up these images of storm, of cloud, of the waters raging, and yet not losing our connection to the harmony and peace of God. So I'm going to call up Meg, and she's chosen a poem in that vein.
I wanted to share this poem with you. It's very brief. I read it earlier this week and I thought it would be perfect for this occasion. It's called Definitive by a Spanish poet named Melissa Salma.
I can ask you so that our friends who are streaming or
Definitive. They'll grow between you and me, the mountains. Wide and vast, the river of stone will drag its riverbed to opposite banks, will shipwreck boats and bridges. The jungle will rise above us and over this city and leave in its paths only the saddened echo of wind's murmur. For me, you'll be the long absence of an absence. For you, I'll be the surf of a sea dissolving. Such yearning disguises my appearance. My pallid face watches you indifferently. I entreaty for a chance made of silence, night trapped among my vertebrae. Immune like the fog, your voice will be the song of other travelers.
The word voice appears so many times in the psalm. And here we are on page 20. Adonai lamabul yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech le'olam. Adonai oz le'amo yitein. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Brings us to page 21 for Lachado Day. So interesting to be here because I like doing Lachado Day at home, but here it's supposed to I feel like I'm here greeting you because I'm not used to seeing you in person, but we're here to greet the spirit of Shabbat. So we are all really the guests at the party, and the true guest, the true spirit is the spirit of God. So let's welcome that spirit of the Shekhinah in very traditionally. I'll tell you that one of the only weddings I did over the pandemic did just produce a baby, and I just sent out the the announcement today, but I don't expect us to have that much fun tonight. But let's still have a spirit of merriment. Lecha dodi likra kahala penei Shabbat nekabela shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad hishmianu elam yuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem ol tiferet v'liti la lecha dodi likra kahala Penei Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lechuvenecha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava techila lecha dodi likra kahala penei nekabela mikdash melech melucha kumitzi mitocha hafecha harav lach shevet behemeka bacha behu yachamol alayichem la lecha dodi likra kahala penei Shabbat nekabela hitna ari me'afarku milipshi bigdei Tifartecha mihiyad ben Yishai beit alachmi korva el nafshi ge'ala lecha dodi likra kahala penei Shabbat. Let's go a little faster. Hitoreri kiva ore kumi ori uri shir daberi kevod Adonai. Allah yiknegla lecha dodi likra kahala penei Shabbat. Page 22. Lo tevoshi v'lo tikami ma tishtochachi u'mahatehemi bach yechesu aniyehami b'nivneta ir altila lecha dodi likra kahala penei Shabbat nekabela v'hayu limshisa shosayik v'raku kol mevalayik asisa layik elohayik kimsos chatan kahala lecha dodi likra kahala penei Shabbat nekabela yamin usmol tifrot ziviet Adonai tariti al yadish ben parti v'nismecha v'nagila. Please rise. Lecha dodi likra kahala penei Shabbat. Boi v'shalom atere bala gam b'simcha uvetzala toch emune am segula boi chala lecha dodi likra kahala penei Shabbat nekabela. We may be seated. Let the Shekhinah rest upon us for this Shabbat. Mizmor shir, shir li'om haShabbat. Mizmor shir, shir li'om haShabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, u'lezamer l'shimcha ha'elyon, lehagid ba'boker chastecha, bi'emunatcha ba'lelot. Mizmor shir, shir li'om haShabbat. Mizmor shir, shir li'om haShabbat. Tune us silently to the bottom of 23. O Dieu nouveau, Beseva, Deshenim Verananim, Yehu, Lehagir, Giashar Adonai, Tsuri, tsuri, below avlat abon. 24. Adonai malake ud lavish. Edotecha nemnu me'od. Levedecha nava kodesh. Adonai le'orech yamim. First of our two mourners' Kaddishes. On this second month of Adar, Beth Israel congregation remembers the yahrzeits of, among others, Bertha Berry, Frida Best, Abraham Isaac Cohen, and we wish Julius a full recovery at Kresge in Chelsea. H. Manuel Dobberson, Ruth Harrison, Julia Hauptman, Jacob Ingber, Sidney Kirshner, Imogen Lehman, Ingrid Maisie, Sophie Pitkin, David Reba, and Benjamin Shaman. As we continue to say Kaddish for Doris Doctor, Lorraine Nadelman, Elaine Stoller, Natalie Scher, Suzanne Feingold Schultz, Judith Cashton, Lorraine Sherman, Michael Adams, Leona Leon, Phyllis Werble, Fanchen Lessing, Carol Feinerman, David Fallman, Bruce Thal, Carol Amster, Gary Joseph Ullman, and Paul Ernest Phillips. For those who are reciting the Kaddish, you're welcome to rise and recite along with me. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam lameh amaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudesha. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. May their memories continue to bring blessings to this world. We're still thinking of them. We have not been able to do this. We're on page 28. And so one of the few little differences I make in the service when we're on Zoom without having a minyan in person is we don't do the Baruch Hu and we don't do the Kedusha, because both of those are in one of these interesting classes in the taxonomy of prayer. They're in an interesting classification of what's called public praise. So just as the Baruch Hu and the Kedusha are not done without a minyan, I don't do that on Zoom, but we do Kaddish, because Kaddish is not considered part of public praise, but it does demand a minyan. And so that we have a minyan on Zoom for that purpose, but it's a way we make a distinction because we know we're not gathered in public when we're on Zoom. So that's where I lie, and that's the distinction I expect to maintain. But for that reason, you all have to stand up, because that means we're doing the Baruch Hu tonight because we have a minyan. So I'm saying that this is like the only difference on Friday night lately. Yeah, we get to do it. So here we go. The public call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. We may be seated. We continue silently. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro ma'ariv haravim. Uma'avir yom u'mevi laila, mavdil ben yom u'ben laila, Adonai tzva'ot shemo el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv haravim. 29. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadita. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, v'shachveinu v'kumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu, v'yorech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'lala. V'avatcha tasemer l'olamim, baruch ata Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. We're on page 30. Even if you're muted and you're on Zoom, you should be doing this out loud if you know it. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantaham levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivdecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha b'derech uv'shochvecha uv'kumecha ukishartam li'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharech. It's silent for the next two pages. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Middle of 32. Umalchuto bratzon kiblu alehem. Moshe Miriam uvnei Yisrael lechanu b'simcha rabah v'yamru chulaham mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lo tosefele Malchutecha ra'u vanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar kifada Adonai et Yaakov v'golam chazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai ga'al Yisrael. So before we go on to the Hashkivenu and into the Silent Amidah, I'm going to share my very brief teaching here. I usually share something that happened in my office this week because I feel like that keeps me in touch with the universe and where people are at. And so I had yet another conversation this week. It's not unusual, and it's a topic I love. Someone brings up the splitting of the sea. And they say, Rabbi, how can I be a Jew if I'm alternating between, I believe there's supernatural miracles like the splitting of the sea, or I have to accept some rationalist God, like it's all just the golden rule and that's all there is. And I always tell them that, well, we could spend a whole course reading Heschel, and I could introduce you to advanced theology that says there's a very nice middle ground between here that the Talmudic rabbis embraced, but it's very hard to do standing on one foot. right? So I gave them one example, and it's ones I've shared with you, but we'll a little bit of teaching along the way for years and years together, and the big picture will form. I told them that, again, in the Torah, there's no word for miracle. There's the word nes. The word nes means a banner. It's a flag. When you go to the Michigan game and you wave your Wolverine, you are waving a nes. So that's what a nes is. And you can know, like, a great miracle is a nes gadol. It's a great nes. So the rabbis spend a lot of time on this idea. But what does it mean that if you take the word miracle away from the English translation, and you say the water split and it was a sign, right? Or something happens in your life and it's a sign, right? Maybe you're taking a walk and you're thinking of someone you love who may not be with you anymore in body, and I don't know, you hear a bird chirp, or you see a red butterfly and you're like, that's Herb Amster, right? Or you have little things happen. These are signs. So the idea is that there's a sign being put up by God all around you. It's a very different approach. The Israelites are escaping from Egypt and there's a low tide, or what is very possible is there was an earthquake. Let's say we go that route. Ancient Israel was full of earthquakes. The water goes down before a tsunami. The water goes down because of the earthquake. The Israelites are like, this is convenient, but we could drown. Let's try it anyway. Not dry land. Let's say they cross over on shallow water. And then what follows during these periods, high volcanic activity in that area, earthquake activity in the area, a wave comes. And that's actually what the Song of the Sea says. If you read through the poetry of it, it says there was a wind and there was a wave and the Egyptians drowned, right? So you're saying, wow, right when we're here, there's a sign saying, go forward. And the sign comes from God. So Rabbi, you're saying that wasn't a supernatural. Let's take out the words supernatural and natural. What if our lives are full of signs, right? And what if living in that middle space between utter rationalism, there are no signs. I don't know what that means. Signs from whom? You're not giving me enough information. Or it's either supernatural or it's not a real miracle. In between is, are we fully aware of the world that we live in? You really think we understand everything about the world we live in? It's much more, this is the Talmud. It's much more suffused with the presence of God than people want to wake up to. That doesn't mean, it was a miracle, right? It's suffused with the presence of God. If you then say, I see a red butterfly, it's Herb Amster, I'm sure of it, then you could be dancing down the road to idolatry. Because idolatry is, I know for sure the invisible messages of this world. I know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Our God, we never know exactly what's going on. We have a connection to the transcendent. And then we're like, I think that red butterfly could be Herb Amster. I think that bird that won't leave me alone, that's tripping at me right when I'm having these thoughts, I think that's a loved one communicating to me. I can't know for sure. I wouldn't, but I know the world's richer than I know. That's my relationship. I think it's a sign. And so they asked me for one, I'm going to give you one example of a sign that I've never given before. And it occurred to me, which is just this. I think reading Torah each week is about looking for signs. So I get ideas in my head. I don't know, Alon sends me something to read, or one of you sends me something to read. And I'm like, I'm going to talk about that on Saturday morning. I get excited. You know what I mean? I'm like, I read something in the paper. I'm like, I'm going to talk about it on Saturday morning. It's going to be my sermon. And then I go and I read the Parsha. And sometimes it's like the red butterfly. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I never noticed in chapter 20, verse 6. There's a thing right there that connects right to that. And then I'm like, I'm good to go. Sometimes I don't find any signs in the Torah reading. And then I'm very disappointed, but I still have the Haftarah. So then I read the Haftarah, and maybe it's in Isaiah or Ezekiel. Once in a blue moon, I get one. I'm like, that's exactly what Ezekiel's talking about in this verse. And then sometimes I don't see it anywhere. And then I don't talk about it. Because for me, it's like, I do want to be able to move in a world suffused with God. And if I don't see any little sign that says, there's a little sign here saying, that's exactly what you should be talking about, right? Alon was giving you a sign, Jason was giving you a sign, and the sign is in the Torah saying, then talk about it. And if you don't, then be careful of your ego, Nadav, Be careful that you're better than Torah. You didn't see any signs in the Torah, but you're going to talk about it anyway. That's ego. And so that's the way I operate with my sermons. So it's a little way I move with the signs and try to live some kind of humble life in the presence of God. Takes us to page 33. That's my Song of the Sea and Hashkivenu. May everyone who needs protection from tyrants and enemies and fears be protected tonight. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'amidenu malkeinu l'chayim v'osalenu skach l'mecha. Ushmor tzeitenu huenu l'chayim u'l'shalom me'ata v'ad olam ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha baruch atah Adonai haborei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim v'shamru v'nei Yisrael tashabat la'asot tashabat l'dorot amrit olam bein yu ve'min Yisrael tili olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'yom hashvi shabbat v'yinafash. We arrive at the Salin Amidah. Please rise. Middle of page 34. Yitkadav yitkadash shemei rabba v'yamad ivra kirte v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael b'gala uvizman kariv v'yimeru amen yehesh merabba mevarach Alhamdulillah me'omaya Yiparach v'ishtabach v'yipar v'yishma v'naseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh shmeru kudusha le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran yama v'imeru. 35b to 38, or your own private meditations and prayers. We continue on page 47. Charles, can I make it like old times where I call you up? Can you lead this stuff? Great. So here, you can keep your mask on if you wish. I'll put mine on so that you have the freedom to take yours off. Yep, and I'm going to stand by you just because we didn't prepare. Yep. Elohim kayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa vayishbot bayom hashvi'i Mikol melachto asher asa. Vayevarech Elohim et Yom HaShvi'i. Vayekadesh oto. Ki vo Shabbat mikol melachto. Ki vo Shabbat mikol melachto. Asher bara Elohim Asher bara Elohim ma'aso. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Konei Shamayim va'aretz B'yom Shabbat Kodesh Kivam Ratza Lehaniach Lahem Kivam Ratza Lehaniach Lahem Lefanav Na'avod V'yirach Hafacha V'nodeh Lishma B'chol Yom Tamid Me'ol HaBrachot Shalom, Mekadesh Shabbat, Umvarech Shevi, Umeniach Kedusha, Yam Medushe Oneh, Zecher Maseh, Namaseh. Let's read together on page 48 in English. Our God and God of our ancestors, find favor in our Shabbat rest. Instill in us the holiness of your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our portion. Fill our lives with your goodness, and gladden us with your triumph. Cleanse our hearts so that we might serve you faithfully, lovingly and willingly, Adonai, our God. Grant that we inherit your holy Shabbat, so that the people Israel will hallow your name, will always find rest on this day. Praised are you, Adonai, who help Shabbat. Amen. Amen. Heshmera b'mehara, le'olam olam le'omaya yitbarach. Brechu. Amen. 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 Aleinu v'Kol Yisrael. Amen. We rise for Aleinu, page 51. Aleinu v'shabeach l'adon hakol, v'atet gdula v'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol amonam, ve'anachnu korim ומשתחווים מודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שבונות השמיים ויוסד הארץ משה יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אינו אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו כך כתוב בתורתו ודעת היום והשבותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. במלכות שעתה בכל ונפסים. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו We may be seated except for those who are reciting the Mourner's Kaddish on page 52 with me. Yikadal, Yikadash Shemei Rabbah, V'yalmad Yivrach Kiruteh, V'yamlich Malchuteh, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, V'agala, V'zman Kariv, V'imru. Yehe Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Olamei Amayah. Barach, v'yishtabach, v'yipa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yinaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei d'kudashah, v'yichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Shabbat shalom. This is the part where I usually tell people on YouTube goodbye, but you can stay on. I'm nowhere near the computer. Thanks everyone. Look, we didn't really announce that we were in person tonight, so I apologize for anyone who's streaming saying I had no idea I could have gone to the synagogue in person. There's so many announcements to make that sometimes we don't make them clearly enough, but it was great. It's, Saturday, for those who are wondering who have not been coming in person, Saturday morning services were a bit sparse before in the middle of the winter, especially when ice was covering everything. I'm not going to deceive. But the last couple of weeks, they've been building and building and building. And with this beautiful weather and the metrics that people follow, it's not, everyone's at different levels of vulnerability, and we very much respect that. But I will let you know that people are coming more and more. We had a wonderful group for that Friday night with Deborah Sachs-Mintz was amazing, and I'm hoping that we're even equally or more full next Friday night for Rabbi Ora Huvia. I'll be here as well, but it's her service to lead a musical singing service. I give permission for instruments at night so that if you're worried that if there may be a guitar or a drum and you don't want there to be, then maybe not the service for you. But I hope you try it. And halakhically, I don't think you should have a problem with any of that. But a singing service next Friday night, that's Rabbi Ora Huvia, and I hope you'll show up. Hope you start showing up in person as well. Saturday morning, tomorrow. I would have Meg announce this, but then I got to give you the microphone. Tomorrow we have the anniversary or the centennial anniversary of the bat mitzvah, or at least the conventional dating of it. Meg will speak maybe more about that tomorrow. And so we're having Women's Shabbat. I didn't really have anything to do with it. And my right hand, Meg Bernstein, has put the whole thing together herself. And there'll be our hope is that, and I hope you don't mind if occasionally, like I step over the mechitza onto the bima, maybe just once or twice, but otherwise I don't belong there. And it'll be Otherwise, except for occasional visits by me, it'll be a women's only Bima. I'm really, really looking forward to celebrating the equality and more contributions, leadership of women in the conservative movement and Judaism in general. So that's tomorrow, and please, like, to show up in person to see people, if you feel safe doing that, please, you're very, very welcome to come. I want to say a thank you to our Purim volunteers who contributed in so many ways over the past week. Big shout out to Helen Amanoff, Amanda Fisher, Heather Gale, Michelle Israel, Ruth Markowitz, and I always go to the German pronunciation, Ruth Markowitz, and Martha Young. And so thank you for delivering Mishloach Manot and for helping so much over the time. Those are the main announcements. I do want to let you know, because I never announce it, because I feel humble about it. Tomorrow after services, I will be on the Bima because I'm going to teach following the lunch. And I'm going to teach in my series on Jewish law. And this one's on the very important topic of whether men are allowed to listen to women's voices or whether it is too arousing. So that, like, and how that comes into play in modern decisions that are happening, and what's the origin of this Talmudically and halachically. So I'll be talking about that to celebrate Women's Shabbat. What is the origin of this justification for excluding women from public ritual and public participation in Jewish leadership? And I hope you'll join me after services tomorrow for that. That will be streamed. I'll do my usual thing where I'll stand up here and talk. And for those who are still streaming the service, they can stay on and hear me. But those who are here, I'll hand you out a source sheet. Next Friday, 2 Friday nights. So next Friday night's Rabbi Ora, and then the Friday night after. Next Friday night is Rabbi Ora, and the day after, Saturday morning, will be our first Serenity Shabbat. I will make sure that it is a Shabbat that is comfortable and speaks to anyone who has gone through 12-step recovery or similar recovery, or in secret has gone through their own, battles, spiritual challenges with any form of habitual addiction, but primarily drugs and alcohol. And I'm going to make a service that I speak to that in the sermon, connect the prayers to it, and then anyone who's in recovery and who's connecting to their higher power, Jewish or not Jewish, can find their way into this sanctuary on that Saturday morning and say, this is a place that speaks to my soul, and I feel supported in my connection to God and my overcoming my challenges, my bondage in this regard. So that is actually next Saturday. So we have a lot of kind of special things. If you know anyone who's in a family that has that going on, or has friends going on, or you just want to be here, but be prepared that, so we may not have, for example, obviously we may not have wine and Kiddush and things like that. We should look into that, make sure there's no wine and Kiddush. Thank you, Meg. You're on it. And that will be also followed up by, before Passover, the night before the first Seder, I'm going to hold a sober Seder. That's the exact same thing, but it's in Seder form here at Beth Israel. Please register, and that's for people who want a Seder that's not only without alcohol, but that understands the challenges of going from bondage to freedom, and that there are many steps in that process that require the signs and joining with the higher power. Thank you for listening to my announcements. And with that, I try to figure out, let's do Yigdal, page 53. Good old traditional Friday night Pete. Page 53. Yigdal Elohim Chai v'yishtahaba nimsa ve'ein etel metziuto echad ve'ein yachid keyichudo ne'lam v'gam ein sof li'achduto ein lo demut haguf ve'eino guf lo naharoch elav kedushato Kadmon l'chol davar asher nivra rishon in reshit l'reshito hino adon olam v'chol notzar yoreh gedulato malchuto shefa nevuato netano el anshe segulato v'tikbarto Lo kam Yisrael Moshe od Naviu Mahabid et Emunato Torat emet natan li'am ohel, hayad nevi'o neman beito. Lo yachalifa el, v'lo yamir dato, le'olamim lezulato. Sofeve yodea sitarenu, mabit lesof davar bekadmato. Gomer le'ish chesed gemifalo, noten lerasha ra gerishato. Yishlach b'ketz yamin meshichenu, livdot mechakeketz yeshuato. Meitim Yechayael berov chasto, Baruch Adei ad Shem Tilato. Let's finish strong. Meitim Yechayael berov chasto, Baruch Adei ad Shem Tehilato. Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Thanks for joining us. And as Ziv always says, see you in the morning. And Rob says that too.
Good night. Shabbat shalom, everybody.